145% growth in e-commerce. The e-commerce champions of Bangladesh, the list is very long, but put on some names: Chaldal.com, Daraz, Food Panda, Pathao Food. They're all serving the people of Bangladesh through e-commerce and having explosive growth. In addition to e-commerce, I also must mention mobile-based financial service, bKash, Nagad, Rocket, and the list goes on. The government of Bangladesh dispersed more than $588 million through mobile-based financial service to 4 million RMG workers. This is the significance of mobile-based services to help Bangladesh fight the COVID pandemic. Along with mobile-based financial services, there is also an ecosystem growing up through selling pharmaceuticals online, through delivering medical services online. Following pharma, this will be my last industry. This is the LPG industry. I come from the LPG industry, and I will be very happy to show how we are helping Bangladesh fight the COVID pandemic. LPG is a green fuel. It is used for cooking and heating. It is widely available across Bangladesh. During COVID lockdown, this LPG was declared as an essential product by the government of Bangladesh. It helped us to facilitate the transport and distribution of LPG across the country. LPG operators, such as the companies below, we have rolled out home delivery services and clean sanitized LPG cylinders, and we have helped millions of people to stay home and stay safe with access to clean cooking fuels. Just like e-commerce, the LPG industry is also poised to have a positive growth in 2021 during the post-COVID time. After I've covered the four industries, how is COVID affecting the total exports of Bangladesh? In this bar chart, we can see in 1819, the total exports was around $40 billion, but in 1920, failed cancelled orders by garment buyers, cancelled orders by foreign buyers, suspension of exports due to cancellation of payment by foreign buyers, and the 2 months of lockdown has led us to a decline in exports. But as per the Export Promotion Bureau and BGMA, also the financial media, our exports are projected to grow back to more than pre-COVID levels from this year, 2021. The government has taken many initiatives to help the exporters, and we must applaud all the initiatives that has been taken, starting from creating access to funds, all the way through relaxing banking facilities. The Bangladesh Bank has helped us a lot as well. So following exports, I will cover how the COVID-19 has affected our capital market. In this bar chart, it shows the index declines of Asian and developed countries during the COVID-19 period. On the far left, we can see that the Bangladesh stock market index had one of the least declines, only at 16%. And this has been primarily, so the decline started from the time of the lockdown in March, we can see in this graph. Right after the lockdown, the trading activities were halted, and we have started to have a recovery in our index from the month of July. And we must applaud this recovery and investor confidence coming back to the stock market due to the timely and effective steps taken by our Securities and Exchange Commission. There has been a timely restructuring of the SEC headed by our dynamic chairman, our chief guest, our special guest. The new commission has approved a good number of companies for IPOs such as Ruby. The new commission has also rejected a number of IPO applications and brought wrongdoers to justice. They have punished the wrongdoers and also imposed fines on the wrongdoers and institutions. The commission has also approved Standard Chartered Bank, which is the first bank, foreign bank in Bangladesh, to issue a 8.5 billion zero coupon bond. In addition, the SEC is strictly maintaining the floor price for the benefit of investors. It has introduced the Corporate Governance Code of 2018. Also, the BAPLC has recommended some changes, and it has been agreed to bring those unanimous changes. Listed companies are allowed to conduct meetings through digital platforms, and reports can be submitted by security custodians and credit rating companies also. I'm sure all of our viewers and our guests will agree with me on these. To sustain the growth of the capital market has to be liquid. We need to expedite facilities to attract foreign investors. We have to create access to fund for fundamentally strong companies through IPO. Most importantly, institutional investors need to be attracted. They're the key driving force of a well-developed market. We also have to develop a bond market, and we believe the Security and Exchange Commission and its leadership is actively and already promoting. I've covered the foreign exchange reserve earlier. We have crossed 39 billion US dollars. In terms of foreign remittance, it was widely expected that foreign remittance, inward remittance will fall due to closing down of our worker markets such as the Middle East, and also more stringent visa restrictions. However, the government of Bangladesh has relaxed conditions for expatriate Bangladeshis. They can get 2% incentive on remittance up to $5,000, which was previously less than $2,000. The countries that employ our workforce are also gradually reopening after the COVID-19 lockdown. We can see that our foreign inward remittance is gradually increasing from the month of May. In our balance of payments, we have a positive balance of payment. We have crossed $1 billion in July and crossed $2 billion in the month of August. So I've covered my two segments. This is my final segment. And in this segment, I will discuss the post-COVID environment across the world, how a new trading scenario has developed, and how Bangladesh can reform itself, how we can prepare ourselves in a post-COVID environment. The post-COVID reality in business is there will be deglobalization. Businesses, due to the experiences of COVID, will now source their products and raw materials from nearer to home. There will be increasing use of technology in production and logistics. Large corporations will optimize their size. They will further strengthen their positions. A lot of countries will go into supply chain protection. It will gain importance. There will be focus on diversified investments and payment mechanisms. We will have businesses being conducted on digital platforms more increasingly. Governments will become dominant customers. We can see governments are now the largest buyers of healthcare items. And there will be a renewed focus on small companies, SMEs, to support the shorter supply chains that will come out after COVID. There will be renewed importance on this. These shifting trends in international systems will lead to reshoring of supply chains, diversification of supply sources, regionalization, and replication of production. And these shifting trends, although challenges, have a silver opening for Bangladesh. Every cloud has a silver lining. The challenges of impact of restructuring of international productions will create the opportunity for Bangladesh to attract more foreign investors who want to diversify their supply sources away from their traditional supply sources, such as China. There will be a tougher competition for FDI. There will be a shrinking pool of investors, and this opens up the opportunity for Bangladesh to increase market-seeking foreign direct investors, and also in distributed manufacturing for different products in the value chain. The third challenge is value capture in globalized value chain, and the development of a vertical specialization is becoming increasingly difficult. And the opportunity for us is to use the shorter value chains and invest more in final goods production and broaden our industrial capability. We are all invested in a globalized value chain, but due to the shortening of supply chains, there will be a diminishing return on infrastructure built for a global value chain. This is the opportunity for us to make investments in digital infrastructure and platforms that will enable new applications and help Bangladesh as a new value chain entrant. While the global value chains are shrinking, the domestic demand in Bangladesh is expanding. So this is also a big opportunity for us. And these shifting trends in global FDI are creating new strategic options for Bangladesh. And there are 6 funds to facilitate the investments in uncertain times. Our Honorable Chairman Bida is with us, and I must thank him. And we can also see that the Bida is already taking steps to address these issues to bring in more foreign investors. We have to further facilitate the establishment of investment through streamlining approvals, which the Bida is doing. We have now one-stop service centers for foreign investors, also in economic zones. We have to create access to industrial land. Secondly, we have to promote a greater coherence between trade and investment policy. Third, we have to fine-tune our investment incentives. Are we tackling what the investors need? Are we developing the proper vocational skills that the investors look for in an industry or market? Fourth, we have to design a focused investment promotion and retention strategy. Fifth, we have to create more linkages between our domestic and foreign investors. We have to prevent enclaves. And there has to be a policy and strategy that will help more SMEs participate in the new global supply chain. Finally, there has to be regulations. Already there are regulations for investors' confidence. Bangladesh is slowly moving away from a labor cost differential to a competitive-based value proposition. Also, investors will be looking for other factors. There has to be compliance with international production standards. There has to be confidence in regulatory enforcement. We need to have skilled labor with the proper vocational skills. There has to be easy flow of goods across our borders. We have to create easy access, and we have to facilitate access to power, transportation, land, and there has to be efficient reaction by our authorities in an institutional capacity. And we are confident and sure that the Bangladesh Investment Development Authority is already working on all these to address the post-COVID environment. We have a lot of foreign investors and foreign viewers in today's webinar, and this slide is for you all. Bangladesh has many strengths for you to leverage. You can invest in this market because we have a high growth rate. We have a rising purchasing power. The per capita income has surpassed $2,000. The Bangladeshi people have high aspirations. They're buying higher value products now. The Bangladeshi people are looking at luxury items. There is a proven manufacturing and export capacity. We have sound macroeconomic management, which can easily be seen on the economic fundamentals I've shown. We have liberal policies for private participation in a lot of sectors except a few. We have affordable labor market, which is very flexible. Bangladesh is having a huge demographic dividend that will go on for the next several decades. We have a strategic location that connects Southeast Asia with the world, and Bangladesh can you can use this to leverage Bangladesh as a new value chain entrant, and we have preferential market access to all the developed markets. So I end my presentation here, I end my keynote here, and I will just leave the viewers and our guests with a question of policy consistency. Compared to our peer economies across the world, where does Bangladesh stand in terms of tax rates? This is something that we can discuss. So I'll end my presentation here. My sincere thanks to our chief guest, our special guests, and to the Bangladesh Association of Publicly Listed Companies for giving me this opportunity. If you want any clarifications or want to reach out to me, I'm available in LinkedIn, Tanzim Choudhury. I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you for this opportunity. I end my keynote here. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Mr. Tanzim, for your informative presentation. After presentation থেকে আমরা যেটা observe করলাম, নিঃসন্দেহে this pandemic is a tragedy, not only nationally but in global proportions, of course. এর personal এবং economic toll খাটো করে দিবার সুযোগ নেই। কিন্তু স্বল্প রিসোর্সেসের দেশ হওয়া সত্ত্বেও প্রেজেন্টেশনের ডাটা অনুযায়ী বাংলাদেশ তুলনামূলকভাবে অনেক উন্নত দেশগুলোর তুলনায় আমরা এই প্যান্ডেমিকের ম্যানেজমেন্টে দেখা যাচ্ছে অগ্রগামী, এবং তা সম্ভব হয়েছে আমাদের সরকারের বেশ কিছু দ্রুত পদক্ষেপের কারণেই। প্রত্যেক সিদ্ধান্তে সমালোচনা আলোচনা থাকতে পারে, we can agree to disagree. But the holistic direction of our government, led by our Honorable Prime Minister, has come as a positive jolt for our business community, in our humble opinion. More can be done, of course, and we can resolve this through more dialogue with the regulatory agencies, keeping in mind the resource limitations of our country. May I now request Ms. Neha Kabir, President, MCCI, to say a few words to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to all of you. The Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Private Sector Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Salman Rahman MP, the Honorable Chairman of BIDA and BSEC, the President of FBCCI, my host today, Mr. Azim J. Chaudhry, and I must thank him for giving me this opportunity to address this very esteemed gathering. We just heard and seen an excellent presentation of what has transpired in this COVID period in Bangladesh. And Mr. Azim J. Chaudhry in his introductory remarks also brought up some issues regarding the difficulties which we sometimes face in doing business in Bangladesh. Without going into the details of these issues, we know the issues because these have been repeatedly brought up over the decades. I sometimes joke and say that when my mother was the president of the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the issues she raised, today I'm also raising quite a few of those same issues. So we know the problems. What we now need is to find out how to resolve these issues expeditiously and to actually get on with it and do it. COVID-19 has certainly had an impact on business and the economy in Bangladesh, as in all other countries of the world. But the issues that we talk about, these have not been created by the COVID situation. These have existed pre-COVID and will continue to exist unless we take these specific steps to address that. I'll give you just one or two examples. As a lawyer, I had the opportunity to work on the BESA OSS project. And the number of legacy regulatory requirements which we have is astonishing. These requirements no longer have any relevance in the current legal and business framework of Bangladesh. I'll give you one recent example, which the Honorable Advisor took the lead in getting rid of from our law books, which was the use of the round seal, the company round seal in issuing company deeds and documents. This has been there in our law book since 1913 and actually serves no particular purpose. There are other examples also that we are asked to fulfill requirements which are not actually in the rule or regulation books. For example, banks are required by the foreign exchange guidelines to ask for C forms for remittances of, it used to be $2,000 and I think it's now up to $5,000. Any remittances above that, the recipient in Bangladesh would have to submit a C form. Each and every bank requires the recipient of any amount of foreign currency, be it $100 or $150, to submit a C form. I know that because we receive our fees as lawyers from overseas, and sometimes, these are very small amounts. But these regulations are not in the book. So what we need to probably look at is not only to remove the legacy regulations from books, but also to stop applying requirements which are not in the books, and from introducing new requirements which are onerous in order to address serious issues. But there must be ways of addressing those issues without causing even more regulatory burden on businesses and citizens. I know, because I have been involved in quite a bit of this work, that BIDA and the Office of the Honorable Advisor, the Honorable Chairman of BIDA is here. They've been working very hard on these issues. And the entire government's government's administrative machinery and policy-making machinery, in my humble opinion, must rally around and support these changes at both the policy and implementation level, as well as the legislative level. For example, in recent times, their efforts have led to very positive discussions on the reduction of certain onerous requirements in the Foreign Exchange Regulations Act. The BSEC chairman is here. He attended a meeting recently, and he also committed to make certain changes which will make investments, portfolio investments, easier in Bangladesh. I will not go into the specifics here, but we can see that work is being done, and it is up to all of us. And it is also up to every government ministry to not hold on to their turfs, but to assist in this endeavor. Speaking specifically to the today's topic, the investment requirements to counter the economic impacts of COVID in Bangladesh, I must first of all, once again, very strongly register my grateful thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister for announcing the stimulus packages when we did and to the extent that she did. It was her swift intervention at that time which gave a huge measure of confidence to people who were staring into an uncertain, somewhat uncertain future. And also, as the keynote speaker referred to, the cash support, which was given to more than 1 crore families, was of an immense benefit at a time of great need. And after some initial hiccups, the stimulus money has been distributed, mostly to the large industry, quite a lot of it to the small, to medium industry. The distribution to small micro cottage industries has been less smooth because of their the level of banking services that they take support of is not very widespread. I am going to take the liberty of sharing 1 or 2 results done by BRAC Bank. I sit on the board of BRAC Bank on small industries, which is where we lend out between 12 to 18 lakh takas without collateral. And there's more than 100,000, much more than 100,000 such clients. And we did a survey on a statistically significant number of them. We've been doing these surveys on a rolling basis every 2 months. And you will be happy to know that whereas on the 9th of April, 33% of our small industry clients were open. In the middle of May, it was 23%. In the middle of June, it was 64%, but in the middle of August, 17th August to be specific, it went up to 98.5%. And small industry, in my opinion, again, service and manufacturing being one of the backbones of Bangladesh's economy. This, I think, is splendid news, and it shows the resilience of Bangladesh. It really highlights that. What we have seen, though, is that there's been a pre and post-pandemic reduction in sales, and the current average sales reduction, again, August figures were up to about 32%, but the sales curve is going up. And in October, we think that at least our small clients are going to reach up to 90.5% of their sales targets by the end of October. However, because of the disruptions earlier in this year, the annual sales reduction due to lockdown or not being able to access markets or customers has been in the region of 40%. Currently, and the employee presence has gone up to about 79%. And I won't go into any further figures, but I absolutely think that this shows that our economy is very much on track to recover. However, we have seen the keynote speaker discuss 4 industries, and there is also an encouraging picture there. My own industry, tea, and I know there are some other tea planters in the audience today, we did not close down for a single day during this whole period. And even so, because of the overall economic situation in the country, our sales have come down by 25 to 30% on last year, and as have the prices. So this is a picture that will, if we take the overall impact of COVID on our economy, this is a picture that will, I think, be replicated in many sectors. What we have from at least MCCI, we have always said that the assistance that has been given now has been timely, but as we go forward, we will probably require further graduated assistance, targeted assistance. One thing that I would like to repeat, and I've said this many times, is that we have, due to excellent macroeconomic management over the last decade, we have very good headroom available in our economy. And if at all necessary, our target budget deficit of 5% can be increased by several percentage points to meet whatever requirements come up in the future due to this COVID impact. And I think at this time, these percentages is not so important as what is important is for our citizens to be taken care of. And I have to absolutely give credit to the Honorable Prime Minister and his team that very timely measures have been taken in most cases. What has been mentioned by the keynote speaker and by Mr. Azimjad Chaudhry, I mean, just to generalize from that, going forward, good governance, a massively increase of technology and innovations will help us to overcome the adversities like this effectively and efficiently. We have been forced into doing some business process re-engineering due to the pandemic, which has actually, in quite a few of the manufacturing sectors, engendered processes which are more efficient than pre-pandemic situations. This does create an opportunity for us to increase our efficiency and our productivity through the use of information technology, modern technology, and other means. But at the same time, we need to ensure that this does not cause any loss of employment. Quite often when we talk about changes, there is an immediate reaction that eto taratari to shob kora jabe na, hobe aste aste. We need to move away from this mental attitude of incremental change. We don't have the time for that. Disruptive change in our implementation and our regulatory aspects is the need of the time. In the life of a nation, a feel-good factor is the very most important factor. Again, in my humble opinion, that people feel, the citizens feel that their needs are being looked after, their problems are being at least acknowledged by the policymakers, and an attempt is being made to sort that out. And as I've said time and again, even today, that Honorable Prime Minister has done this in this very difficult time most admirably. We have always been a very resilient nation. And this COVID epidemic has once again highlighted the resilience and the inner strength of the people of Bangladesh. Inshallah, we will pick up our growth and development trajectory very quickly and possibly faster than almost any other country as soon as we're able to either return to normal or assimilate into what is the new normal going forward. I would like to thank you all very much again for allowing me this opportunity to address you all today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Ms. Neha Kabir. Thank you for aligning your views regarding the legacy problems and the regulations with our views as well. And of course, you have said that new regulations cannot cause more hurdles, business and commerce, which we all feel and which we are all collectively trying to get rid of on a day-to-day basis as various associations. Thank you. May I now request Mr. Sheikh Fazli Fahim, President of FBCCI, to say a few words to us. Fine.
Honorable Chief Guest, Salman Fazlur Rahman MP, Private Industry and Investment Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, special guest, respected Muhammad Sirajul Islam, Chairman BIDA, respected Professor Shibli Rubayatul Islam, Chairman BSEC, President MCCI, Ms. Nihat Kabir, one of my dear one, the keynote presenter, Tanzim Chaudhry, Director East Coast Group, esteemed host, Mr. Ajam J. Chaudhry, President BAPLC, Mr. Riyad Mahmood, Vice President BAPLC, esteemed presence, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to you all. It is my pleasure to join the virtual seminar on COVID-19 pandemic impact on investment in Bangladesh and the way forward. On behalf of the Federation of Bangladesh Chambers of Commerce and Industries, FBCCI, Bangladesh's exclusive umbrella trade organization with 500 plus chambers and sectoral trade associations, members across all economic sectors of agriculture, service, manufacturing, and quaternary. We thank Bangladesh Association of Public Listed Companies, BAPLC, our esteemed member, for your initiative. FBCCI members are all trade organizations of Bangladesh, from MSMEs to the largest sector, city chambers, sectoral associations, bilateral chambers, women chambers, corporate members and associate members, both domestic and international. During the COVID-19, FBCCI help desk and 100 lines of helpline are receiving specific challenges and issues, and we have been addressing them with respective departments, authorities, and ministries. For example, the tea industry issue of capital machinery being taxed more than 1% was addressed recently. I welcome BAPLC's concrete regulatory issues and any challenges that they face, that we are here to assist you in any way possible. In addition, we have 129 strategic global partners, Commonwealth Enterprise, CWEIC, CCPIT, China Council for Promotion and International Trade, Belt and Road Initiative, SRCIC, ICC, Confederation of Asia Pacific Chambers of Commerce, CASI, etc., and its private sector representative across government ministries, departments, authorities as governing body members. During COVID-19, as a frontliner, FBCCI's exhaustive engagements assisted in shaping non-fiscal policy support, fiscal policy support, execution of stimuluses, and continuous engagements to recover our economy in a holistic approach. In line with our national strategy by Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's bold and visionary leadership's roadmap, FBCCI have been integral in stimuluses execution, sustaining our economy with a 3-year roadmap of sustainability this year, recovery in 2021 and 2022 to pre-COVID-19 trajectory. As you are aware, in the budget, our government plan is to increase higher expenditure. They have extended 45 million people with food programs, 5 million with cash transfers, and 19 stimulus packages was part of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's quick and judicious response to the crisis, and includes but not limited to 588 million for export-oriented industries, 3.5 billion as working capital for the affected large industries, 2.35 billion as working capital for MSMEs, 588 million as agricultural refinancing scheme, 235 million for job creation and support for small farmers, expat returnees, agro-processing, etc. Complete package is about 12.1 billion, which is 3.7% of our GDP. Since February 2020, FBCCI's economic advocacies were focused on non-fiscal and fiscal policy advocacy, so enterprises are not penalized. And after the stimulus packages were declared by Honorable Prime Minister, in case of his execution, simplifications of his circulars, moratorium on bank loan payments, blocking of interest rates, which secured banks' investment and allowed recovery for entrepreneurs of all sizes. Second intervention from our end has been tariff and tax intervention, result of which was AT on raw materials were reduced from 5% to 4%, advance income tax 5 to 2% in selective products, and our proposal is to take away with all sorts of advance taxes within next 2 years. AT on raw materials, corporate tax reduction of 2.5% for non-listed companies, reduction in all personal income taxes, waiver on port charges, exemptions of penalties and charges during holiday periods, etc. Our continuous engagements are underway with leaderships, both political and government, for all stakeholders' sustainability. Moreover, several social and philanthropic initiatives to aid frontliners and marginalized groups in 64 districts were taken in addition to extending goodwill gestures to multiple governments. Gestures such as food programs, mask and PPE, face shields, and cash to all frontliners were extended to both governments and domestic frontliners, complementing our government's initiative in the international arena as well. Nevertheless, stimulus loan disbursement for the MSMEs and agriculture is short despite all-out support to the banking system, such as liquidity measures, 50-50 matching fund, credit risk guarantee. On the large 30,000K package, majority has been disbursed by now, and these are revolving funds. Nevertheless, we are hopeful for a substantial better yield shortly in CSMEs and agriculture. April 28, 2020, FBCCI associations and chambers were included in Bangladesh Bank circular to facilitate KYC for CSMEs and agro-processing industries for loan disbursement and recovery. Previous projects of such tripartite agreement demonstrated 99 to 100% recovery rate. BAPLC members and other large sectors are relatively more compliant for access to finance. Nevertheless, due to technicality, if there are challenges, we'd be happy to facilitate if needed. Restructuring the financial system with accessible service-oriented low cost of capital, services from banks focused on retail and trade financing. In case of long-term projects, instruments such as debentures, bond, convertible debentures, crowdfunding, etc., for securities and capital market for long-term projects, insurance and housing schemes. These financial ecosystem will facilitate business sustainability and bring 84% of the informal sector to the formal and towards higher tax and investment GDP ratio. Facilitating in LDC graduation and SDG 2030. FBCCI is engaged in this regard with stakeholders. While this transition takes place, finances mindsets that all entrepreneurs in our country are landowners needs to be revisited and focus on projects feasibility. Ladies and gentlemen, from investors' perspective, much has been achieved while simplification of documents, procedures, regulations have room to be streamlined. FBCCI Bilateral Value Chain Initiative, BVCI, for Bangladesh, bilateral country and beyond is our focus with our 129 strategic global partners. Furthermore, lower tariff, including corporate tax, custom duties, VAT, with widening our tax VAT net, phasing out all applicable advanced tax and integrated automated tax management revenue framework will facilitate investment ecosystem. In addition to trade logistics enhancements, which are part of HPM Sheikh Hasina's 420 lakh crore investment to update industrial ecosystem since 2008. The stock indexes have gained traction following strong optimism at the gradual reopening of the reopening of the economy and regulatory moves to revive the capital market. Regulating the floor price and investors' confidence. Easy access to capital market to finance long-term projects through bonds, diverse investment tools such as debentures, convertible debentures, and crowdfunding, etc., with compliant regulation will assist in confidence and diversity in one of the pillars of financial ecosystem. As we navigate the next normal, we are confident in our economy as it is demonstrating strong recovery trend in exports, remittance, and foreign reserve. Our GDP was 5.24% growth. Our remittance is 5.4%, and foreign reserve grew 10% in fiscal year 19-20 despite COVID-19, and largely due to the stimulus packages execution as much as it happened. During July to September, our export for 2021 was 9.89 billion. During the same time, our export in 19-20 was 9.64 billion. Aligned with Bangladesh's development trajectory, the present FBCCI board launched FBCCI 2041 in June 2019 to form Global Knowledge Partnership for Alternative Dispute Resolution, Applied Research, Trade Facilitation, Policy Advocacy, Technology Transfer, Startup Ecosystem, FDI, and domestic venture capitalist investments in startups, business process reengineering to be part of global value chain within the next 3 years, STEAM-based curriculum, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, and 4th IR-based skills, bridging the industry and academia gap. In closing, we look forward to future engagement with our esteemed member organization, BAPLC, as we sustain and recover over the next 3 years. Thank you for having me.
Sheikh Fazle Fahim, President of BCCI. Your positive attitude and comment to overcome the unique barriers to the listed companies is much welcome. We thank you. As we had observed during the height of the pandemic, your and BCCI's regular communications to us through your SMSs, webinars, to make us aware regarding the incentive programs, how to apply for them, when and how to open our businesses, when to start our offices, etc. The guidelines was much helpful. Thank you very much. May I now request our special guest, Professor Shibli Rubayatul Islam, Chairman, Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission, to say a few valuable words to us. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think we are running late, so I'll try to make it as brief as possible. I'd like to thank first Bangladesh Association of Publicly Listed Companies, for arranging such a very important virtual seminar on COVID-19 pandemic, impact on investment in Bangladesh and the way forward. I thank the presenter today, who has very nicely presented, Mr. Tanzim Chaudhry, all the economic indicators, and he has rightfully presented the overall economic scenario to us. My very respected Mr. Salman F. Rahman, MP, Private Sector Industry and Investment Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, who is the chief guest today. Salam to you. And salam to special guest, Mr. Mohammad Sirajul Islam, Chairman BIDA, special guest, Mr. Sheikh Fazle Fahim, President of BCCCI, Mr. Ajam Jahangir Chaudhry, President Bangladesh Association of Publicly Listed Companies, and my one of my very favorite person, Ms. Nihat Kabir, President of CCCI, and especially to the Honorable Moderator, Mr. Riyad Mahmood, a successful entrepreneur. We are passing through some tests, as I believe from my religious belief that Almighty Allah usually take a lot of tests during our lifetime, either with health, either with financial situation, or sometimes the nature plays a role where we have to pass through a lot of tests. We are passing through a very difficult test this time because of COVID-19. And COVID-19 has made a lot of changes in our business, our lifestyle, our physical movement, our immune system, discipline in our lifestyle. We know how to face few challenges. We have changed many things in our life just because of this 5-7 months old pandemic. We are also becoming resilient to many of the situations which we are facing now, and we are getting prepared for another one, because it's not the end. There may be COVID-20, COVID-22, COVID-28, something may come in the future also. So we have to know how we should prepare ourselves for the next one. So we have learned a good lesson this time, and we have also learned how important is the IT platform at this stage to be more digitally connected, more digitally performing. Today, the presentation made everything in full. So I don't want to talk about the presentation issue because Mr. Tanzim Chaudhry presented wonderfully. I want to add one thing in addition to COVID-19 today. This is 2020, and so far Bangladesh never failed to achieve its mission and vision. We know within the next few years, Bangladesh will be moving ahead for the graduation to middle income country. Within my 5-7 minutes that I have, I want to add this important point for you to think about, because government has helped us in many ways with stimulus package, and Honorable Prime Minister was kind addressing any situation wherever it is to help the business, to help the economy to move as normal as possible, to help the people of Bangladesh, the economy of Bangladesh. But in addition to the exercise that we have to do after this pandemic, we have to prepare ourselves for the emerging scenario and the attendant challenges we are going to face due to graduation. You know, gross national income, human asset index, economic vulnerability index, these all will be required to be addressed within the next 2-3 years, in addition to what we are talking about. So we have to start thinking about those. The road ahead that we have, it should be kept in mind that the dual graduation refers to performance of the country according to selected indicators and sub-indicators. And we have to work on those also from today. Important indicators such as competitive strength, domestic resource mobilization capacity, distribution and inequality, state of governance and accountability, and environmental sustainability will be a very important issue. We have to be very careful about these critically important factors from the perspective of sustainable graduation and sustainable development. Pandemic is there, Plus, this is what we have to look after from today if we want to really attain what we want to. The two graduations will entail important implications in areas of market access and special and differential treatment enjoyed by Bangladesh as an LDC, and in terms of foreign borrowings. The road ahead is, I would say, a little bit, the hurdles will be tough, and we have to be very much prepared together as a team to face the challenges. Things are moving quite well. What we wanted and what we expected, things, alhamdulillah, is happening quite better than what we expected. So we're not worried. We want to be more healthy, more stronger to face whatever is coming in the coming days with sincere attention. Transition from grant to loan and concessional to non-concessional borrowings will be difficult in the coming days. The finance to non-concessionals loan will be also difficult. We have to avoid the debt trap that some other countries are facing. We have to diversify sources and our products. Product diversification at this moment is the demand of the day, which everyone should put their attention to. We have to take advantage of also the middle income graduation in global financial market. We have to address the loss of non-reciprocal and preferential market access. Bangladesh could probably, it is still an assumption, about $5 billion of export due to GSP and other facilities that will be abolished after we graduate. Foreign investment, both direct and portfolio, we need to address from today. And that situation, in this situation, investment is going to play a very critical, important role in helping Bangladesh addressing the challenges of dual graduation. To urgently face these challenges, the capital market, as we heard here, is a reflection of an economy and its potentials. Capital market development will need to be aligned with 8th five-year plan targets and Vision 2041. With aspiration of a developing middle income country, our vision, a transition from overwhelmingly bank-based investment financing, should be moved to capital market-based financing. We should broadening of the capital market with new source and new instruments. Good governance and transparency through regulatory enforcement and greater digital interface will be required. We are looking for better human resource, modern technology, and prudential management tools. Enforcement of rules and regulations through more effective supervision and monitoring is the demand. Greater coordination and cooperation with between the evolved key stakeholders like FRC, Bangladesh Bank, National Board of Revenue is very, very important now. Doing away with contradictory regulations and interpretative ambiguities, we need to remove immediately. Fiscal incentives aligned with appropriate monetary policy is required. Raising financial literacy and the role of professional investment is very, very important. Connecting GOB plans to attract FDI with capital market development should be aligned. Fiscal incentives and removal of anomalies and incentivizing bond market through amending Financial Act 2020 is what we are trying to do. We have to enhance the reliability of disclosures, streamlining the role of merchant banks, publicly available mandatory disclosure for informed decision-making by the very important investors, and disclosure of price-sensitive information and critical buying practices. We have to be very cautious with the measures to deal with investor complaints, especially the grievance addressal. Listed companies to open investor relation desk is the timely demand, interactive software at DSC, transmitting real-time signals to investors, incentivizing greater use of mobile and digital platform by investors. At the end, I would like to say that while Bangladesh can genuinely take pride in her achievements, going forward will not be a linear progression of the past trends. The dual graduation will significantly change the future scenario of Bangladesh 21st century journey. The ongoing COVID pandemic has accentuated the challenges Bangladesh will be facing in the near-time future. This will create new demands for better regulation and better governance. Bangladesh policymakers will need to design appropriate strategies backed by the needed homework if Bangladesh is to avoid middle income trap and if LDC graduation is to be sustainable and the potential opportunities originating from the post-graduation status are to be fully realized. A developing middle-income Bangladesh deserves a well-functioning capital market that secures the interest of attracting investment, safeguard the interest of investors. Actually, we need investment. Heavily, we need investment at this point of time. We need capital to move us to take forward. Institutional investors, we need so much at this moment, which I'm sorry to say that capital market is lacking. Institutional investors are not coming that much that we have expected so far. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me today, feeling very much honored and privileged. It's a time-worthy discussion and will help Bangladesh to prepare for the new challenges that COVID and the graduation has brought us into. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable speech. Just a few points that you've touched. One of the points that, very important point that you've touched is that during this crisis, we have talked about various facts and figures, but seldom on a public forum have we talked about the hand of the Almighty. Yes, of course, for those of us who are the believers of the Almighty, we hope and pray to the Almighty that we get out of this crisis. A crisis such as this one will, of course, come again in the future, and may the Almighty give us the strength to battle this. The other point that you have touched also is that we are having this seminar. It's actually called a webinar through virtual methods, which is the gift of Digital Bangladesh, which started well before the pandemic. A lot of our operations, a lot of the government's operations were very smooth and running due to the successful implementation of Digital Bangladesh. You have also mentioned the graduation to the next stage of our economy. Yes, sir. We do hope and pray that our physical as well as mental infrastructure must be there so that we can graduate to the next stage. And we have touched on product diversification. The government is also encouraging it. We do hope that we can the government, the R&D sector is of course very important, but we do hope that we can have other product diversification where our labor force can be actively employed, such as footwear and other labor-intensive sectors where green financing, which is also a pet topic of yours, that can be successfully implemented. I would now like to invite our special guest, Mr. Mohammad Sirajul Islam, the Honorable Executive Chairman of BIDA, to say a few words to us. Honorable Executive.
Thank you. I believe that you can hear me.
Yes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. His Excellency, Mr. Salman Fazlur Rahman MP, Private Industry and Investment Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, today's chief guest, distinguished special guest, Professor Shibli Rubayatul Islam, Chairman, Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission. Special guest, Mr. Sheikh Fazli Fahim, President FBCCI. Barrister Nihat Kabir, President MCCI. Respected Chair, Mr. Ajam J. Chaudhry, President, Bangladesh Association of Publicly Listed Companies, BAPLC. Learned keynote presenter, Mr. Tanzim Chaudhry, moderator, and dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking today's chief guest for his presence and sharing his thoughts with us. I'd like to thank today's chair, keynote presenters, speakers, and others discussants for their contribution to this critical discussion of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on Bangladesh, investment in Bangladesh, and way forward. The keynote speaker deserves a special thanks for the identification of the COVID-19 impact in Bangladesh economy, particularly on investment, especially for the measures suggested by the keynote speaker as way forward during the post-COVID period. It was really enlightening. Thank you very much for your very good keynote space. We are all aware of the impact of this pandemic has had on our lives. Some significant challenges have been placed, but at the same time, it has given us unique opportunities to work together. I'm not sure how many of us would have been able to meet physically during the last 6 months. I met so many people virtually, in fact. It might not have been possible to meet physically had there been no pandemic, to be very frank. The pandemic is impacting business in Bangladesh, like other countries across the world. As demand decline or change, and as supply chains relocate, many things become unusual or uncertain. And if we can do one thing to fix confusion, we can take urgent lessons and tap into new possibilities. And we already know that new prospects are opening up for Bangladesh amid the gloom spelled out by this crisis. There are several positive news we are experiencing in recent days. Despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, GDP growth in 2019-2020 fiscal has been 5.24%, which is extraordinary even in global terms. The keynote speaker has shown the trend in different countries. Perhaps we did the best. The foreign exchange reserve keeps growing. It is now more than $39 billion. On the other hand, I must admit that COVID-19 has adversely impacted small, medium enterprises, the most vulnerable populations. We all know that most vulnerable groups in Bangladesh primarily rely on daily income sources. Forecasts show that an additional 20.4% of the population will be pushed into poverty. Bangladesh source Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. To face the ongoing pandemic, the government has distributed relief and cash incentives to everyone, taken prompt health measures, and launched initiatives to increase food production to mitigate the COVID-19 pandemic impact on people's livelihoods and the economy. To minimize the economic activities, the government of Bangladesh launched a stimulus package. It has been mentioned that it is around 3.7% of our GDP. I'm happy to know from Barrister Nihat Kabir that in the Black Bank, where she sits in the board, the disbursement of SME loan is getting higher. But I don't know whether across the board the scenario is the same. The report that we are receiving is the stimulus package that have been declared by the Honorable Prime Minister at a very crucial time. For the larger industries, I think is going good. But for the cottage, small, medium enterprises, it is not that smooth. BCCI President also mentioned about it. I think that some proactive actions needs to be taken by the government to facilitate the disbursement of the stimulus package for the CSMEs. And I do not know the latest of the credit guarantee scheme that was being prepared by the banking division. That needs to be in place as soon as possible so that the smaller enterprises can take the loan and they can survive and they can contribute to the economy, because they are responsible for most of the employment in Bangladesh. Okay, Bangladesh Investment Development Authority undertook several COVID-19 responses by coordinating across the government and private sector. We formed a task force headed by the executive member of the International Investment Promotion Wing of BIDA with an additional secretary to implement business retention strategies, expansion and attraction strategies. We have conducted virtual public-private dialogues to capture real-time regulatory challenges facing by the business community and identifying potential areas for attracting new FDI. We also have developed policy recommendations and pursued their implementation based on the outcome of these dialogues. Ladies and gentlemen, to keep our economy vibrant, we have to diversify our economy. Most importantly, we must transform our export basket. RMG is the lifeline of our export earnings. RMG is opening up to more diverse and diversified goods. The need to improve national productivity is also prioritized in Bangladesh. Companies are interested in working with foreign companies to develop critical back-end supply chain industries to reduce our overall reliance on imported raw materials. We were already working to diversify our economy and export before COVID-19. And now that this crisis is upon us, the government is more determined to expand these non-RMG sectors like IT, light engineering, medical equipment, non-leather products, diversified jute products, and jute products, to name a few. We must start with the sector in which our workforce has useful expertise. Keeping these factors in mind, the government is developing 100 special economic zones, as you know, and 28 high-tech and software technology parks across the country that offer attractive incentives to prospective foreign and local investors. Public-private partnership for big infrastructure projects also provides an excellent opportunity for the investors. BIDA is working with establishing a business enabling environment. As some of the speakers already mentioned, particularly Mr. Nihat Kabi, she is also working with us in improving the ease of doing business global index in Bangladesh. We are taking massive reforms in the ease of doing business in Bangladesh, making business processes simpler than before. Our goal is to become the most convenient investment regime in South Asia. This is what I'm telling, but let me also share with you from my experience during during 1 year of my tenure in BIDA. It's very challenging. I must admit that making the business environment very friendly for the private investors is easy to say, but it's very, very challenging to implement. I must say that my colleagues in the government must act proactively to make the life of our investors easy, because private investment in Bangladesh economy contributes the most. It is around 80% of the economy is led by the private sector. So the government policymakers should come forward proactively to make their life easy. BIDA is the coordinating body. BIDA doesn't have the authority to make things work in, everywhere. It is ultimately the different ministries and the division and agencies who takes the decision. What BIDA is doing, BIDA is coordinating, BIDA is trying to bridge the gaps between the private sector and the government. But government agencies must come forward for doing all this. I must appreciate Dr. Rubaiyatul Islam for his very important mentioning of the phenomenon that we need not be obsessed with pandemic, COVID-19 only. It is really, really important that one day we will overcome the challenge of COVID-19. But we have to think about 2024 or at best 2027, when we will be graduating as a middle income country. And many of the advantages that Bangladesh as an LDC is to enjoy will not be there. So we have to compete with other middle income countries. So we need to be really ready for that competition. So this is our time for us to think and take the initiative and also the preparation for a country which will be a middle income country. Not only that, our Honorable Prime Minister, who is a visionary leader, she has set the milestone for becoming a developed country by 2041. And that's also very challenging. We have to have all this in mind when we work. And I must also thank Mr. Rubaiyatul Islam for one sentence that, which I always believe and I like it. We should work as a team. We should work together. BSEC itself cannot do everything. BIDA itself cannot do everything. Only private sector cannot do everything. Both the private sector, public sector, all the ministries, division, agencies should work together for the betterment of the economy as a whole. Only in that case, I think no challenge is a challenge. We can overcome all the challenges, whatever it might be. Thank you, Professor Rubaiyatul Islam, for your spirit. Let's work together. Thank you. Moreover, we work relentlessly to maintain and upgrade an interoperable one-stop shop. In short, we call OSS for Investor Services. We have already introduced a dedicated OSS, which is truly online and virtual and delivers 21 essential services to the investors we will be adding more services in the coming days. As BIDA, we are always ready to address any issues of our esteemed stakeholders. Let me be very candid on this issue also. We have the OSS installed. It started working in 2019, February 2019. This is October 2020, almost 2 years. We could integrate only 21 services. And out of these 21 services, 14 services are being provided by BIDA itself. Only 7 services from 6 government agencies could be integrated with BIDA OSS platform. You can understand how challenging it is to integrate government agencies. The government agencies should be proactive in this matter, because I believe that the keynote speaker also talked about transparency. The transparency can be ensured only if, I tell you again, only if the services of the government could be digitalized. If there is less and less human interaction in the decision making, it will be more transparent. If it is transparent, it will be faster. If it is faster, it will be less costlier. That's about how I see the OSS. But again, it is very difficult. It is very challenging to integrate the services of different government agencies to in the BIDA OSS platform. I am at the end of my deliberation. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk this very important webinar. I again thank Bangladesh Association of Publicly Listed Company for inviting me to talk this webinar, and thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Chairman, Honorable Executive Chairman. Without further ado, I would now like to hand over the floor to Mr. Salman Rahman, MP, Private Sector Industry and Investment Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister. Yes, sir.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Mr. Azam J. Chaudhary, President of BAPLC, the Honorable Chief Guests, Chairman BIDA and Chairman of BSEC, the President of FBCCI and the President of MCCI, and all the participants, Assalamu alaikum. For me, today's webinar, to have come to this webinar is pretty nostalgic. Why it is nostalgic is that BAPLC was formed by me and late Samson Chaudhary, who Samson Bhai, who's passed away. Both of us got together and we decided that we should have this association. So being today attending this webinar being organized by BAPLC is really, it's like coming back home. The other thing why it's nostalgic is because we have the president of both MCCI and FBCCI here, where I have had the honor of serving both the MCCI as its president as well as FBCCI as its president. So I think, it's like I've come back to my original family. So that is the first, I feel very, very this thing. And I would like to, actually what I wanted to say is that from the time when I was president and when we formed BPLC to today, the trade bodies have actually really come a long way. And that is why I would like to congratulate the trade bodies and the present leadership of the trade body, that the contribution you are making towards taking the country forward is actually what, when we were, you see, when we were When I was president of Metropolitan Chamber, I remember that if I had to go abroad at that time, I would have to take a P form from the Bangladesh Bank. Without a P form, I could not buy a ticket. And when I was FBCCI president, at that time also the chief controller of import and export and the director general of industry was the most important two government offices with whom the business community had to deal. Today's generation, I'm sure the excellent presentation given by our young business leader, Mr. Tanzim Chaudhary, that I don't think he has even heard of the P form, and I don't think he even knows what the chief controller of import export or what the director general of industry is. So I think for us, the passbook, the import permit. So when Mr. Azam Chaudhary complains about a lot of things, and when Nihad was mentioning about legacies, I started remembering these things, and I thought that, you know, we've actually come a long, long way from what used to be. So I'm not saying that, in no way am I saying that what you are, you know, that we should take care of legacies, and we should definitely, we have to do all of that. But I think what has happened at this moment, especially under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, what she has been able to actually do is that she has given us a new kind of belief in our country. This last 12 years, the way the country has moved forward, the way the economy has grown, this has given us a huge self-confidence. You know, we at 10 years ago, immediately, if you remember, after the military government, when this government came to power, and prior to the military government, the period which we had gone, at that time, the feeling was that, you know, it's going to be business as usual in Bangladesh, and we are going to move forward the way we have been moving for the last so many years. But this last 12 years, Prime Minister's leadership took us to such an extent that a new confidence has come into the citizens of Bangladesh. And that is the main reason why we were able to face this COVID challenge so successfully. Of course, it was the timely intervention of Honorable Prime Minister that goes without saying, but the people responded. And why did the people respond? Because they have this new confidence. I know, I agree with what Nihad said, that Bangladeshis have always been resilient. But this time, this pandemic, and mind you, during this pandemic, we've also had two very major cyclones, and we had flooding. And you know, we don't mention it even, because that is something we treat this. The old days, if there was a flood or if there was a cyclone, it used to be huge, big news, and it used to be that, you know, now we have, this has become a SOP, it is a standard operating procedure. We just solve these problems as and when. So that is what I feel is that we are in a completely new setup. So here, what first I'd like to congratulate our keynote speaker. I think the presentation which was given was an excellent presentation. It covers today's topic very, it's covered today's topic extremely efficiently. And so I won't go deep into more of those things. On the micro levels, a lot of issues have been raised, and I'd just like to mention a few things and then move forward to, I want to talk more about the future rather than, so what we have is we have issues now, and, you know, we are solving it. What I'd like to say is that what has happened is that the mindset at the top level, I mentioned this in another meeting a few days ago, the mindset at the top level has definitely changed because of Prime Minister's resolve. You know, she has made it clear to the all government, senior government officers that this is her target, this is what she wants. And so I find, and I think most of the business leaders here who are here present will agree with me that when you talk to a secretary or when you're talking to a head of a organization, and we've got, of course, two very dynamic government officers with us today, the chairman of BIDA and chairman of BSIC. And when you talk to chairman BIDA and you talk to chairman BSIC, they are absolutely pro-private sector. And you heard what they said. They want to actually get rid of as much rules and regulations and your legacy rules, everything, and work in a team to do it. When we talk to the governor, central bank, when we talk to the secretaries, senior secretaries, we find that that is there. The other day, we had a meeting and I think Secretary Commerce was there. And the moment we mentioned an issue, he said, yes, I will solve this. And not only I will solve it within so many months. You know, he gave also a timeline, he gave a deadline that within this deadline, I will solve it. So that mindset has changed. It hasn't, at times, it hasn't traveled down to the field officers totally. It's that's the challenge which we are facing. And I think that is where I would request the business community to, the trade bodies to put a lot of emphasis. The other thing which I want to say is that, so these changes will happen. I'm quite confident that, you know, the way things are now moving, it is hard work. We'll have to work. You'll face problems. You'll have to this thing, but the mindset has changed. It's now the job of the trade bodies is that you have to. For example, Mr. Azam Chaudhary in the beginning, he mentioned about the shipping ministry. So what I would say is that here the FBCCI or the BAPLC or the Metropolitan Chamber, what you should do is you should organize a meeting with the decision makers. And here the decision makers would be the shipping ministry, the shipping corporation, bring them together, have this thing, and then, you know, whatever legacy problems you have, you can then discuss it and solve it. You have to, that work has to be done. It's not going to happen on its own. And I think you have to be proactive now. Just complaining that this is the problem, এই সমস্যা আছে, এই সমস্যা কেমনে সমাধান হবে, শুধু অভিযোগ করে লাভ নাই. I think the time is that, you know, you move forward, be proactive, organize a meeting. I am there. There are other government senior ministers are there with you, and if you need, and even you don't necessarily need us all the time. You know, even if you go to the secretaries and you can go to BIDA chairman if you have a legacy problem. He can organize a meeting with whoever, whichever ministry you have a problem. And so that is, you have to be proactive to solve this problem. And then the other thing is, then these legacy issues also have to be identified. Like Nihat was mentioning about the CFOM. So this is something which we need to identify and we have to solve. So this is the job which I think the trade bodies really need to do. And this is something which I'm quite confident will be done now. I don't want to really put too much, this is something you have to work at, but it will be solved because that is the decision of the government, that we want to make things as easy as possible. And what the BIDA chairman has very rightly said, that once we have the OSS, and I've always been maintaining this, that once we have the OSS in place, we will, once we have the OSS in place, it will be transparent. And the moment you get transparency, the cost will come down, decision-making will be faster, and everything will be. So that is this thing. 2 days ago, I had a meeting with Honorable Prime Minister, and we are talking about revenue. And she mentioned that, you know, we need to, from the business community, what we have been saying all the time. And she agreed. And she, in fact, said that we need to widen the tax net. And the only way to widen the tax net is by using online, by using the technology, by using the digital technology. So all that is happening. I would like to mention here that many, you know, you're talking about, first and foremost, I would like to talk about a BAPLC a little bit. And that is that I'm very, very happy. I said initially only, but my point is that actually when Samson Bhai and myself, when we formed BAPLC, the idea was that BAPLC can become a very, very important advocacy forum, because your members are all the listed companies. And one can assume that if you are a listed company, then you are already following a certain your discipline. You know, you are within a higher discipline than a normal company. So, you know, your accounts, your disclosure, your everything has to be much more at a higher standard than normal companies. So your leadership and your members are much more responsible, because the fact that they have decided to list themselves, they have also at the same time decided to take on that responsibility. So when you decide to list yourself, you as an entrepreneur, you have taken that responsibility that I will be more, how do you say it? I will be much more professional. My disclosures will be much more transparent. My business ethics, my business principle, because you are a listed company, so you will have to follow much higher standards than what a normal company does. So my idea with Samson Bhai was that if BPLC could then really play a role, because you would have these responsible, your members would be very, very responsible. And so I'm very happy today that you have arranged this webinar. And what I would really request BAPLC to do is that you can really find out what are the issues and then interact with the FBCCI. We have the dynamic president of FBCCI with us today. You can interact with FBCCI, you can interact with MCCI, and then really make, I think, BAPLC into a strong advocacy organization. And especially now that we have the new leadership in the SEC with a very, very dynamic chairman and a lot of very highly qualified and competent members. So we have a huge, absolutely new leadership there. So I think BAPLC and SEC, if they were to work together, then it could really take this thing forward. The issue that I would want to discuss is that, you see, with a lot of privileges, I have always said that, you know, you can get a lot of privileges. And of course, business community always wants privileges. But with privileges also comes responsibility. And we also, from the business community, what I would say is that we also have to behave responsibly. This is also very, very important. And I would, and this is where there are a lot of issues we need to solve, but I think also, and especially from the three trade bodies which are represented today, BAPLC, FBCCI, and MCCI, I think the signal should also go out that there should be responsible behavior from the business community also. You know, things like paying taxes, getting the revenue. There are issues on the other side, but there are also issues on our side, you know, on the business. When I say our, I mean the business community side. Another thing which has been raised is that the question of graduation and the challenges, and we have the challenges which the target set by Honorable Prime Minister for 2041 and 2030, and these are challenging. And definitely once we graduate from LDC and we lose our market access, it will be challenging for us. But I would not actually look at it as a challenge. I would look at it more as an opportunity. Because if you were to actually become a developing country, while as an LDC you lose a lot of the benefits which you were, you lose a lot of the benefits which you had, which you enjoyed as LDC. But as becoming a developed country, you will have, there will be a lot of more opportunities. And that is again what I think is the job of the trade bodies. You have to now identify what those opportunities are and how Bangladesh can make the best use of it. We have all discussed about our resilience, about our competence, about the fact that, you know, under leadership of Prime Minister, we have been able to prove to the world that যেটা আমি সবসময় বলি যে অনুকূল পরিবেশ থাকলে আমরা পারি। So if you create an enabling environment and give the Bangladeshis an opportunity to perform, they have always performed. So a opportunity, what are the opportunities? That is what we have to identify. What I want to really say is that we have to now think of going to the next level. ঠিক আছে, যে এই লেভেলে যে কথাগুলি বলতেছেন এখন আমাদের সমস্যা আছে, এই সমস্যার সমাধান করতে হবে, যা যা আমরা বলেছি, all of this will be done. But this is not our goal. This cannot be our goal. This cannot be the end of what we want. What we really want is to go to a completely different level. We have to go to the next level. And especially why I'm saying this is because, and this pandemic has actually shown that the new normal, the new world order, the new global business environment is going to be a completely different type. And the way technology is moving ahead, the way, the 4IR, the industrial revolution, with, with all this thing. So we need to, here what I would really, this is again, I would request now the trade bodies, and especially FBCCI, I know because I've been in discussion with the president and he's been briefing me. In the case of FBCCI, he's already thinking along these lines and he's taking some initiatives, but I think we need to work much more. And not only FBCCI, all the other trade bodies must do, is that we have to create centers of excellence in Bangladesh. Skills development is very, very important now. And this is something which I think, where people, how we are going to face this 4th IR. What are the things we need to do? Let us say the government has decided that we want to make coding compulsory in the primary level. You will have coding and the children should learn how to code. So by the time they come out in the secondary level, they are programmers. ঠিক আছে, এটা conceptually education ministry করবে, এখানে এটা হবে. But my point is that trade bodies should really now apply your mind. How can you help the government to do it? How can you guide the government to do this in a much more efficient way? And what are things which you yourselves can do? And that is, and I'm very, very pleased to let all of you know that FBCCI is now doing setting up a university, a technological university. And he is what the president told me, that is coming into collaboration with very, very renowned international institutes. So that kind of partnership is being done. So that is very, very important. The other thing which I would like to say is that there will, because of this graduation, there will be a structural change. And also in our revenue thing, which I want to say, there should be this thing. We should not really depend on custom duty. We should try to bring down custom duty. We should depend on VAT and income tax. This whole structure of our revenue should change. Now, the custom duty is basically that because of you all. And I keep saying us because since I'm part of, my career has been in business and trade politics, is that the domestic industry needs protection. So every time you want protection, you'll go and say that, well, I need protection, so you put this custom duty against the import and all. But if you are going to graduate, then that change. And my point is that আমরা যদি প্রতিযোগিতা করে আমরা রপ্তানি করতে পারি, and সেখানে তো আমি সবার সাথে প্রতিযোগিতা করেই আমরা রপ্তানি করতেছি. So why can't I do that for my domestic market? Why should I need protection? Up to a point, yes, but then now we should, our business community, when I go, now people, when they come to me, I see many people come and say, আমি এটা produce করতে চাই, ওটা produce করতে চাই. I said, do you have a competitive edge? Because the moment you'll say, I want to produce this locally, and then you'll come and say that importer উপরে 20% duty বসাই দেন, তাহলে আমার feasible হবে. And so এর আগে people used to say that now there is no level playing field, we need the protection because there is no level playing field, আমাদের electricity নাই, আমাদের load shedding হয়. All of those things are changing. Today, we have got there is no problem with electricity. there is no problem with energy. The Chittagong port has become very much more efficient. Matabari is coming in, major projects are coming in. So this is again another this thing. And the other thing which we are thinking, which Prime Minister has said, and already Commerce Ministry is working on it. I've mentioned this before also, and that is FTAs. So we have to sign, you know, amra je market lose korbo or preferential access je lose korbo, that has to be compensated by having FTAs with as many countries as possible. Now, what does FTA imply? FTA korar shate shate kintu or oi deshero kintu import apnar, just like he is going to give you free access to his market, he also will want free access to your market. So etao kintu that is why I am saying that amader mindset amader je investment everything eta guli niye korte hoy, kintu I think we really need to go for IELTS. So এখন মাগরিবের টাইম হয়ে গেছে. The problem of being chief guest, I have noticed now in many of the webinars which I have been attending, that the problem of being the chief guest is that you speak last. And that is okay, because you should speak last, because if you don't hear the other speaking, then you are not able to react and you're not able to comment properly. But the problem with speaking last is that you always get the least amount of time to say what you want to say. And because now Maghrib is coming up, Maghrib Azan hoye gache in fact. So I'll now I will end this thing again. I would really like to, like I said, for me today has been a very nostalgic day. I am feeling very, very happy that I could attend this webinar, which is organized by BAPLC and where both FBCCI and MCCI are present. All three organizations I have, in my earlier life, I have been associated with, and feel very proud of the fact that I was with these organizations. So that has been a very, very good thing for me. I would like to again thank Mr. Azam J. Chaudhary for inviting me to be the chief guest, and all the speakers, the keynote speakers, and all the other speakers who have contributed to today's webinar. I'd like to thank all of you for your very valuable comments. আর বিডা চেয়ারম্যান একটা কথা বলেছেন, আমি ওনার সাথে 100% একমত, যে এই প্যান্ডেমিকে জুমের কারণে অনেক লোকজনের সাথে অনেক মিটিং করতে পেরেছি। ফিজিক্যালি যদি এই মিটিংগুলি করতে হইতো, আমার মনে হয় না এত এফিশিয়েন্টলি করা যেত। একটা তো হলো ফিজিক্যাল মিটিং এ সবাই সবসময় টাইমলি আসে না, ট্রাফিকের সমস্যা, চিফ গেস্ট দেরি করে এসছেন, তাহলে বসে থাকতে হবে, তারপর চা পানি এটা সেটা নাস্তা টাস্তা এগুলি করতে করতে ওই মিটিংটা শেষ হয়ে যেত। এন্ড দেন দিনে একটা মিটিং বা দুটো মিটিং এর বেশি মিটিং করা যায় না, কিন্তু জুমে আমরা দেখতেছি দিনে 3টা 4টা মিটিংও করা যাচ্ছে। সো দ্যাট ইজ আ গুড থিং। আরেকটা জিনিস হয়, যদিও প্যান্ডেমিকে আমরা সবাই লকডাউনে আছে আর ফিজিক্যালি অনেক লোকজনের সাথে আমাদের অনেক দিন দেখা হয় নাই, কিন্তু অ্যাটলিস্ট স্ক্রিনে দেখা হয়, দ্যাট এটাতে অলসো উই ফিল ভেরি হ্যাপি দ্যাট আপনারা সবাই ভালো আছেন, মানে স্ক্রিনে দেখতে খুব ভালো লাগে। তো এই কয়েকটি কথা বলে আপনারা সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন, সুখী থাকবেন, এই কামনা করে আমি আমার বক্তব্য শেষ করছি। জয় বাংলা, জয় বঙ্গবন্ধু, বাংলাদেশ চিরজীবী।
At the end, I would like to give my special thanks, and we are carrying the heritage of Mr. Salman Abraham, who created actually the APC. And I think it will be our responsibility to take your guidance. We will bring different issues in our platform, and the advocacy will be given. And I can assure you that we'll pilot different issues that we consider need to be addressed for different issues for further development of trade and commerce in this country. I personally believe that actually we are not complacent, but Bangladesh have done really well. And there is no reason why we should make excuse of small things. We should take it as a challenge. And as all speakers say, we will take it as a challenge. We will face it and we'll go to the different places and try to resolve it. With this, I'd like to also thank our special guests for attending this session. It was very important. And BAPLC will continue to host these sessions on a very specific issues, on very, very specific issues that we can change mindset of people, decision makers. And we'll continue to do this. And we'll continue to do the advocacy for all the good causes of business and trade and commerce. So I'd like to thank all of you, sir, all the participants for participating in these functions. We had initially was over 400 participants. And I'm really amazed that everybody participated in this seminar. And I can assure you that we will continue to do so. It is not possible on this seminar today to do a question and answer session because already we have crossed our time limit. But you can please send any questions you have to BAPLC, and we can, if those questions are to any of our guests, we'll obtain their answer, we'll obtain their opinion, and we'll come back to you. Also, in the meantime, we can also send you these questions. And all the chats are coming here on different issues. I'd like to thank all of you, not answer all of you together, but I'd like to thank you for this seminar. Thank you, sir. With this note, I'd like to end this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম সবাইকে স্যার।